Hi guys, it's Katie. I'm back again with another edition of my vlog, and today I thought I would actually, by viewer request, talk a little bit about what it's like here in the stroke dimension. As most of you know, Sean, my husband and business partner, had a severe cerebellar stroke. That's severe is really, really bad, and cerebellar means brain stem. On September 18th, 2018. It was actually the day after my birthday that this happened. Yay, happy birthday. Wow, it turned our lives completely upside down. He spent 3 months in the hospital. The first 2 months, he was hooked up to a ventilator, being fed through a tube, basically unable to move or do pretty much anything while they were just getting him stable and figuring out how to get him back up on his feet again. He wasn't able to talk because he was on the ventilator. And we communicated with actually a letter board that I drew in his sketchbook. And he had to point out one letter at a time to spell things out, to communicate with me. And after the first 2 months in the hospital, he actually had the breathing tube, the tracheostomy that he had in his neck was capped off, and he started being able to speak again, but it was very slow going at first, and he started being able to move around a little bit. And the last month that he spent in the hospital was mostly doing rehab to get him ready to come home. The first 3 months sucked. This is the worst experience that's ever happened in my life, obviously. I was trying to be at the hospital with him every day. I was also trying to be at home with my kids and taking care of my business every day. Obviously, I could not do all of these things. My mom and his dad both came and stayed for extended visits to help us, both with keeping Sean company in the hospital and taking care of the kids and making sure that all of their needs were met. So that was a really, really intense and really awful and really traumatic 3 months of our lives. But during the 3 months of just hanging out in hospitals and getting to know the entire medical situation and sort of becoming a specialist myself in what a stroke is and how you recover from it and all of that, I learned a lot, so that's good. But then after that, Sean came home right before Christmas, 2018. He did a really intense rehab program right before he came home to get him ready to come home, which was scary and very challenging and a lot of work for both of us. But he's a success story. He was able to come home safely, like I said, right before Christmas of last year. So he's now been home, and we've been doing the home version of stroke recovery here in the stroke dimension for the last, I guess, 13 months now. And so that has been very challenging. I'm going to be real. It's been frustrating. It's been very emotional. There is just a lot to do. Like I said in my last video where I talked about some of my life challenges, it's just a never-ending stream of everything, because I'm kind of effectively doing the work of like 4 different people at this point. And I can't do it all. So, you know, I have to enlist other people to help me, and I also have to just kind of let some things slide, which doesn't feel comfortable to me because I'm a real doer and I don't want to let anything, just go to the side. But one of my lessons of the stroke dimension is you kind of have to, you don't get to choose. So that's kind of an overview of where we've been at. The last year has been extremely difficult, extremely challenging, like I said. But also, we've found a way to learn lessons and to grow as individuals and together and as a family through that. Which, has been beneficial, but of course it's nothing that anyone would ever choose for any reason, obviously. Some days I have a really hard time getting up and doing my day. I usually motivate myself by saying, hey, you've already done the worst day of your life. This one won't be as hard as that one. And then I just get up and go, and I do whatever I can. Some days we are doing physical and occupational therapy appointments down at Kaiser. Some days we're just doing home exercises. A lot of time in the stroke dimension just gets sucked up with what they call the activities of daily life. These are the things that you and I just take for granted. Getting up and getting out of bed in the morning, taking a shower, making your breakfast, eating your breakfast, getting dressed, whatever. There's just activities of daily life. Things that are very easy for us are super challenging for Sean. A year ago, they were almost impossible. The good news is, over the course of the last year, he's made a ton of improvement. The bad news is it's really, 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 really slow, and we still have a long way to go. His neurologist actually explained to me right before we left rehab kind of the way that the brain functions in the aftermath of a stroke. And she gave me kind of a really neat analogy. What she said was, imagine that Sean's brain is a city, and the stroke is like a meteor just crashing into the middle of like a super busy key intersection in the middle of your city. So what happens after that happens? Well, two things happen. The first thing is the city sends out repair crews to try and get the meteor out of the road and make it so that people can get by again, right? So his body is working on attempting to repair the damage inside of his brain. But at the same time, your life also goes on. And so what do you do when there's a big crashed out meteor in the road? You find a way around it. You find a new route. But the detour is longer and unfamiliar, and you've got to concentrate extra hard to make sure you don't get lost along the way. And so that's kind of been the state of Sean's brain for the last year, where we've figured out how to do workarounds and how to do the things that he needs to be able to do on a daily basis. But everything is slower and takes a lot more concentration and a lot more effort than any of it ever did before. And of course, that means that things are frustrating. There is a lot of frustration here in the stroke dimension. And there's a lot of crying, I'll be real. I did a lot of crying at the very beginning. Throughout, because as I said in my previous video, I'm a type of person, I express my emotions, because I think that's a healthy thing to do. Sean is also dealing with something in the aftermath of having a stroke, which is called emotional lability, which basically his neurologist described to me as a light switch. Most of us have our emotions on like a dimmer switch, right? We can like turn the volume up, turn the volume down is kind of how it feels to us. Sean's emotions are more like a light switch. It's just like on, off. So, if he gets angry or he gets sad or something like that, it's like it happens all of a sudden, because that's how his brain is functioning right now. And so that's meant that there's a lot of conversations where suddenly he starts crying because he can't control that. And that makes it harder for him to talk, which is also a challenge because he had to relearn how to talk after the stroke. So there's a lot of challenges, and it is a very emotional, very frustrating place to be. But at the same time, life goes on, right? So here we are in the stroke dimension, which is kind of like, we named it that because it's kind of like the twilight zone, where it's like, it is our regular lives, but like with this weird twist put on it. And there are definitely times when I'll just be kind of going along doing something and I will kind of forget that I'm in the stroke dimension. And then I'll just all of a sudden remember, oh yeah, I remember that my husband had a stroke. Which is kind of how I feel about it at this point. But as time has gone by and it's just become more and more normal in just our daily lives, it hasn't felt so, I guess, acutely traumatic is kind of what I'm looking for there. But we're definitely looking forward to some form of re-entry into normal life at some point in the future. We do like to refer to Sean's current state as temporarily disabled. One of the other phrases that we like to use to talk about this is it's a involuntary sabbatical from our normal lives, normal careers, etc. We are very hopeful that Sean is going to have a 100% recovery, but if he doesn't, that's okay too. We're going to work with whatever we wind up with, right? One of the crucial things, obviously, for him is regaining his ability to draw. The stroke affected the left side of his body more than the right side, and he is left-handed. So that's been very frustrating for him. I'm sure that a lot of you have been following along when we show pictures from his stroke recovery sketchbook. He does draw every single day as part of his therapy. And he did tell me a few weeks ago that drawing has gone from being a therapy chore that he was not enjoying to something that's fun again. So that's really cool. Unfortunately, he's still having to concentrate a lot more than he wants to do a drawing. Before the stroke, it was almost automatic for him. And now he's having to really, really concentrate hard to do the drawing the way that he wants to do it. And it's still, of course, not coming out the way he wants it to, because his line is still more shaky than he wants it to be. But we're working on it, right? We're both very realistic people. We play the hand we've been dealt as gracefully as we can. Is just kind of our MO. Fortunately, because we work from home and homeschool our kids, it was, I don't want to say easy, because nothing about this has been easy. Let me be very clear. But I think it was easier than if I had had a job working somewhere else, or the kids were going to school and trying to deal with all of that, as well as the trauma of being in the stroke dimension and the just day-to-day reality of what we have to do here in the stroke dimension. So that's kind of where we're at. People like to ask me a lot how Sean is doing, and my answer is usually the same. He's doing better every day, but still has a long way to go. And we're just trying to do this one day at a time, because that's all we know how to do, and it's like, like I said before, there's a lot of days when I wake up in the morning and I go, man, I do not want to do this day, but I can do this day. So I'm going to get up and do this day. And by the time I make it to the end of the day, I go, hey, look, there's another one. I did it. And then I go to sleep and start all over again in the morning. People keep asking how I'm doing. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm also doing okay. I'm feeling, pretty overworked. I will be real. I haven't had a day off in 14 months, 16 months. I don't even know how many months it's been now. That's, I'm jealous of my friends who I see taking vacations and going places. I know that we're going to get to return to going places in the future, but right now it's pretty, we're homebodies right now. And that's okay. That's what we're doing right now. It's challenging, but okay. I definitely wish I had more help than I did, but that's where I'm at. The kids have been actually extremely helpful. We always had kind of a high bar for them before in terms of helping around the house and, just working for our company and kind of doing everything that they do. And in the immediate aftermath of the stroke, they actually had to, of course, step up a little bit more and help out a little bit more with stuff around the house and business stuff and whatever, just to make sure that I don't get completely buried by it. And they've been really good about that, pitching in, doing dirty work that nobody wants to do. Luckily, my two older kids are bigger and stronger than me at this point, so they're able to do the heavy lifting that Sean is not able to do. And we've got our little team kind of functioning really well as a unit, despite the trying circumstances. So that's kind of the intro to the stroke dimension and where we're at. The number one question that I get from people about the stroke dimension is, are you guys going to do a book about this experience? And the answer is, of course, yes, we're going to do a book. And the centerpiece of the book is going to be that we're going to publish Sean's stroke recovery sketchbook. Not the whole thing, but we want to show his improvement over time from absolute nothing to, full recovery. I also have been doing a lot of writing for the book. I kept a comprehensive journal when Sean was first in the hospital. I'll admit I actually haven't even gone back and read that yet because it's still too much for me. But we are definitely going to be publishing a book about this experience, but we need to finish the experience first before we can really look back on it and talk about it. So depending on how some other projects go this year, we actually might run the Kickstarter for that book this year, but that would be kind of a long lead time. Normally we like to run our Kickstarters for projects when we're pretty much ready to pull the trigger and go on the project. If we do the Kickstarter for the stroke book, that would be probably like a 2-year project in terms of when we're planning on delivering it after the Kickstarter happens. But like I said, it depends on how some other projects go this year in terms of what the exact timing of that Kickstarter will be. But rest assured, we have a 100% plan to do a book about this whole experience. And like I said, publishing Sean's drawings so that everyone can see what he did and hopefully be inspired if this horrendous experience happens to them or someone that they love. I deeply wish for all of you that you never, ever, ever have to experience this. It is truly hellacious. And the working title for the book right now is To Hell and Back, A Visit to the Stroke Dimension. Believe me, you don't want to buy a ticket to ride on this ride. So that's kind of Stroke Dimension 101. I'm sure I'm going to come back to it in a future vlog and talk about it some more because there's a lot to say. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff I forgot to talk about right here. If you guys have questions, go ahead and put them down in the comments and I'll try to answer them in a future vlog post. I'm also hoping to get Sean on here as a guest in a future vlog post as well. So, you know, yeah, there's more to say about the Stroke Dimension, but stay tuned and I'm sure we will talk about it more in the future. Until then, I hope you guys have a great day and I will check you later. Thanks for watching.